Hello and welcome to Animated Features Night. So as you heard from the voice of God, or as we call him here at the Academy, Richard, I am Bill Croyer. And on behalf of my fellow governors John Bloom and Bob Rogers, I would like to thank you for coming to this 15th annual celebration of this terrific Oscar category of the animated feature film. You know, the films we have tonight are a great example of the global reach of animation. We have a film from North America, from South America, from Asia, from Europe, and Burbank. My kind of town, Burbank. Sorry. You know, this is, CG dominates this category, as you know, worldwide. CG films have big box office. But to paraphrase Mark Twain, the report of the death of everything other than CG has been greatly exaggerated. Because tonight we do have a CG animated film, but we have 2 stop-motion films. And we have 2 hand-drawn films. And think of the range of topics that these films cover. It's everything from wordless, comic slapstick humor to the most complex and subtle human emotions, and done with amazing visual imagery. Now, you know, we are the short film and feature animation branch, and in live action and animated short films, it's the members of our branch who choose the nominees. But the animated feature category is a much broader category. Matter of fact, this year, hundreds of Academy members from many branches were on that committee, and they had a chance to screen all of the 16 eligible films with streaming. So we actually had voting coming from 5 continents, a truly global medium. We should applaud that, I think, from the Academy. So here's the plan. We're going to have a clip of each film, and then after the film, the filmmaker will come up on stage. And at the end of the night, we'll have all of the filmmakers on stage as one big panel. And who better to guide us through this? Who knows more about this? Who's a better host than 3 gentlemen who have been here, who are familiar with animation, familiar with the Academy. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to welcome the 3 Musketeers, the dynamic trio, the Big Hero 6 Gunners, the Oscar-winning producer and directors of Big Hero 6, Roy Connolly, Don Hall, and Chris Williams.
And so it begins.
I came from the theater, so I can actually reach you back there. Hello?
Go for it.
All right. I want to thank the Academy for having us here today. Oh, thank you so much. Where'd she come from? Want to thank the Academy. Want to thank the governors for the short film and feature animation category. We are so proud. It's great, John Bloom and Bill Croyer. You are an amazing champion of animation. Thank you. And Bob Rogers. We are so honored to be able to share with you some insight on the 5 films that are nominated for the best animated film of this year. You know, it seems like just yesterday, or maybe a year ago, that we were here actually doing this.
Cue segue. This was one of our favorite events last year because the pressure's off. The voting's done, guys. There's no publicists to worry about. You can be real. You can be real. We can be honest. We can share. This is gonna get awesome. Again, it's just filmmakers talking about their film, and what could be better than that? So again, we're very honored to be here. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, exactly. And just to echo that, for me, this is a really cool night. I am honestly really thrilled and humbled to be here with these great filmmakers. I loved all these films. I genuinely did. They're incredibly eclectic, and so I can't wait to get going. And we are going to start by showing a clip from a movie I loved, Anomalisa. Yep. It really screwed me up. And I'm very curious to know which clip they picked. So, shall we?
What is it to be human? What is it to ache? What is it to be alive? Each person you speak to has had a day. Some of the days have been good, some bad. Each person you speak to has had a childhood. Each has a body. Each body has aches. Look for what is special about each individual. Focus on that. Remember, there is someone out there for everyone. I think you're extraordinary.
Why?
I don't know yet. It's just obvious to me that you are. Our time is limited, we forget that.
Sorry, I grabbed your hand.
It's okay.
It's a reflex. But I don't like to fly.
I said it's okay. You can let go now, though.
Let's bring up Charlie and Duke and Rosa. Thank you. Come on. First of all, congratulations, a beautiful film. We have something in common. You actually worked on Moral Oral, and we have Scott Adsit in common.
Yes,
Scott
we were
Adsit
just
is our
talking about
Baymax, and he's a voice in that, and you're Mary Shelley's Frankenhole. And then, Charlie, I met your dad 4 weeks ago at a gallery and actually saw his artwork. And it's phenomenal. He's quite good.
4 weeks ago at a gallery?
Yeah, it was at the Off Ramp Gallery in Pasadena.
Was it 4 weeks ago though? I mean,
He was at another. It wasn't his opening.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't
Yeah,
his opening.
yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's a great guy, Myron. I love him.
Myron, yeah, thank you.
So listen.
He's going to be thrilled that he got this
Well,
sort of
I
advertisement.
was hoping he was here actually.
He's not, but we can get him on the phone.
Okay. This started out as a performance piece. This was like a radio play, from what I understand, in New York and then in Los Angeles.
This particular one was only in Los Angeles, and it was kind of like a staged radio play.
Cool.
So it was, in front of an audience, but the actors were reading, and there was a Foley artist, and there was Carter Burwell conducting musicians on stage, and that was the performance.
How did it transition then from the team into making an actual animated feature? I'm interested.
Well, Dino Stamatopoulos, who did Moral Oral, is a friend of mine, and he was at the performance. It was in 2005, and he liked it. So, and then he eventually started an animation studio, and they approached me in, I guess, at the end of 2011 or something, and I met Duke and Rosa, and they tried to raise money, and they were able to a bit, so we started.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So what is it about like the puppetry that made that sort of the perfect medium to tell this story? I mean, truly, it astonished me, the subtlety that you guys got with the puppets. So what was it about puppetry that you thought would make a perfect medium for this story?
Well, I mean, that's what we did. We were working in stop motion with Dino Stamatopoulos. Rosa and myself had worked with him on Moral Oral and on Frankenhole, and Dino in particular was really passionate and kind of opened our eyes up to what was possible within the medium of stop motion and wanting to explore more adult themes and authentic sort of nuanced emotional stories. Anybody who's familiar with Moral Oral, it kind of took that track and ultimately ended up getting canceled because of it.
Not the way to go.
Yeah, but so we were we had started the studio in 2010 to produce the stop motion animated episode of Community. And we did another season of Frankenhole and a Moral Oral special, and we were looking for something to produce next in the studio, and we were exploring stories that might fit that idea. And we're pitching ideas back and forth in Dino's office one day, and he was like, "Well, I have this Charlie Kaufman script," and I was like, "What? That's insane! Who has Charlie Kaufman scripts lying around?" And I read
Charlie
it.
Kaufman.
Charlie Kaufman. Aside from Charlie Kaufman. And I
Wants one. I mean, I'm selling them cheap.
we're handing them out. I read it and I loved it, and I think there was
Well, was it the script to the sound play, or was it?
it was to the play,
Okay.
to the play, and it was mostly just dialogue and not a lot of scene description, because it was meant to be sort of visualized in the mind, and so it could really be anything, but it was also sort of decidedly not animation, but it also sort of felt thematically like there was some stuff within the dialogue that kind of you could see it in this medium, and it just felt right from like a guttural sense.
There is an amazing and unique idea in this film where one actor plays so many characters. And I found it to be a really engaging experience to be in the audience and figuring that out. It took me a little while to figure out what was going on, and I kind of felt in the audience people kind of putting it together. Did you have a sense of when people would figure it out or when you wanted people to figure it out? Can you talk about that a little bit?
No.
I don't think so. I mean, I like things like that where you kind of like you're not like guiding the audience necessarily to a place where they figure it out. That people figure it out at different times, and I think that's been our experience. That some people never figure it out. We
That's okay.
I mean,
That's okay.
I was late to it. I was like, what is going on?
yeah. I
About-
mean, there's no
about an hour.
wrong time to figure it out.
Oh, good.
Never.
Thank you.
Never.
I
is
feel better.
the time to.
Especially with like the faces, particularly with like that's even more subtle for a lot of people because we could have done something like given everybody a mole on a certain part of their face or something, and then it would just register. But yeah, we liked the idea that it would, some people might just have a feeling that something's kind of off or something's kind of strange, and it might come to people at different times.
Yeah, that was me for about an hour.
This is a really stupid technical question, but I was blown away by the subtlety of the animation. Truly. I mean, it was unreal. How did you guys achieve that? I mean, the subtlety of expression.
It was a process of, we filmed the actors in the record. We had that as a reference. And then we explored the replacement animation as a way to get kind of, within our budgetary constraints, the widest range of possibilities of expression in the face. Because we could literally print like 300 face plates per puppet with like millions of different possibilities of combinations, which gave the animators lots of range and leeway. And then it came down to a lot of tests, and all of these animators come from working in more sort of cartoony realms, and that's what they're used to. And so finding sort of this balance between this broad gestural stuff, and then, but you also don't want, it's not rotoscoped, it's not copying human movement, because we studied humans and we noticed that humans are like constantly moving. And a lot of times, like the actors, they would gesture with both hands, or one example is humans are like very symmetrical. They tend to do things like with both sides of their body the same, but if you make a puppet do that, it almost feels like artificial or deliberate. So we would do things like gesture the same way the live action actor did it, but with one hand. Or it was a lot of like sort of toning it down so it fit in this puppet world, but also felt human. It was just testing and kind of finding what worked for us.
Right on. It was awesome.
I'm curious for all three of you guys. Animated movies take a very long time to make, as most of you know. And I'm curious because the subject matter in Anomalisa is challenging and bleak at times, and you take on, there's a character who's suffering from a real sadness and desperation. And I'm just curious, what is it like for you to be engaged with that and exploring that for such an extended period of time? Does it affect you personally?
Not really. I mean, I think sometimes I watch it, I'm like, oh, Michael, I hate his guts. I just hate him so much. And then the next time I feel so sorry for him, and the next time I'm just so in love with Lisa. And I was just saying this yesterday to Jennifer, and I was just, we have such an intimate relationship with their voices. You know, with David, with Jennifer, with Tom, and it's like, you know when they're gonna take a breath, and I feel like it just goes with you everywhere. And so when I'm like listening for voices, I still find myself searching for Tom's voice somewhere, like in the crowd.
You know, actually, going off what you said, the animator that animated that scene that we watched had to quit because he was, I won't say his name, but he was going through a divorce at the time.
Oh, wow.
And he connected to the material so deeply that he actually got depressed animating this stuff.
I wondered about that, yeah.
And he had to, he just emailed me today on the way here. It's really weird that this happened, but yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'm asking because it did affect me so profoundly, and I was wondering what it was like for you guys to be mixed up with this stuff for so long. And it sounds like it had that effect on some of your crew.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm interested in the co-directing aspect of this. How did you guys share responsibilities, and you know, what was your daily chores?
I got the coffee in the morning. You know, we kind of made all decisions together, and there was no real division of labor. You know, it's so front-loaded. So much of it is decided beforehand. So, you know, we did the animatic, we designed the puppets, we worked with the production designers and all of that stuff. And then during actual production, Duke and Rosa were there on a daily basis, and I was called and sent footage and, you know, daily, sometimes several times a day, but I wasn't on set for most of it. I was there on occasion, but our conversations were mostly on the internet, and all decisions were made that way. We struggled with the thing and try to figure out, you know, if we could, you know, I would do a reference video or Duke would do a reference video. We'd send it to each other, and we'd, you know, that sort of thing.
Go ahead.
I'm curious about the fact that because it did start out as something that essentially didn't have any visuals, I'm wondering, did you, Charlie, have a picture in your head that you then tried to match, or were you guys filling a visual void? And then specifically, I'm wondering about the aesthetic of the hotel, where was it hard to find something that felt very specific and then inoffensive in the way that those hotels can be, the journey to find the look of the film?
I mean, it decidedly was non-visual in my mind. I mean, I was writing a play that was non-visual intentionally. There's a lot of stuff in there that is ambiguously stated in the dialogue, so that you don't. I wanted people in the audience to have their own images in their head, and I wanted to be open enough that people could have different images. You know, like for example, what is physically wrong with Lisa is never stated in the dialogue, and so when we started to work on this, it became kind of a thing that I had to let go of because we had to show it. So, but that was the conceit that I really loved. And, you know, I mean, I don't know if I had any specific ideas, but I feel like we knew when things were right and when things were wrong. And obviously Duke and I had a lot of conversations and looked at a lot of reference material and paintings and photographs and film stuff. And, you know, we initially we were talking to puppet designers who were, you know, we tell them what we want, and they'd bring in sketches that were like stop motion kind of puppets, even though we didn't want that. We wanted something that was more naturalistic, and they'd sort of like move a little bit in that way, but they still had giant eyes and elfin noses, and they couldn't not do it, and, you know, wanted to shake them. And so finally we just kind of gave up with that, and we started to look for real people, and ended up finding, for Michael, ended up being based on Duke's ex-brother-in-law, who he happened to see on Facebook, and he showed me the picture, and I thought, that's the guy. And so we, so that's how we found people. And Rosa spotted a woman at Little Dom's in Los Feliz that she thought was good for Lisa, and they approached her, and she turned out to be an actress, and she was willing. So they both came in and were photographed, and so that's, I think, little by little, I think. I don't know if, Duke, you wanted to sort of add anything to that.
Yeah, and then we based it off these real people, and then we had a brilliant sculptor named Carol Koch who came in and sculpted these clay maquettes, and then we would sort of look at them and give notes. Somebody clapped for Carol.
Carol here?
She's amazing.
Fan over here.
She's amazing.
here?
She does lots of sculpts, things that you'd recognize. And she could just like some people could just kind of sketch ideas. She would bring in this clay maquette, and we'd be like, he needs to slouch a little more, and she would just kind of like rough it in right in front of us, and he just sort of started to come to life in that way.
And interestingly, I don't know, you guys have to cut, I know, but interestingly, the other face was a combination of like 20 people, 30 people at Starburns, because we needed someone who could work as a woman or a man or a child, and we weren't finding anything in real life. So we built this fake androgynous human being.
It was a composite of 20
Composite,
people. Wow.
Yeah, Photoshop.
Huh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, we could talk all night on this. I want to thank you guys. We're going to
you.
call you back up in a little bit with everybody, but thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank
You guys.
Here we go.
All right.
Here we go. Yep.
Friend. All right, it's my friend now. Next film, Boy in the World.
Let's bring him up. Ale Abrio. Have a seat. So,
Hi.
beautiful film.
We should introduce Alex, who
Oh.
is he going to translate? He speaks very good English, but
Alex, the translator.
Thank you.
So, Ale, I'd love for you to go into your inspiration for the film. Could you tell us what inspired you to make this film?
So, hi everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a great and special moment for animation in Brazil. So it's a good opportunity to tell to you my secrets.
Please.
What do you
So
got?
I was researching about the 500 years of Latin American history, And one day I discovered in one of my diaries this little boy I drew some years ago. So I felt at this moment like this boy was waving to me, calling me to discover his history. So I decided to deixar de lado.
Decided to leave the other project, to leave it aside.
And give my hands to this little boy and try to listen his voice.
Oh man, that's great. So the artwork, the art style in the film, is that your personal style, or did you kind of come up with the style for the film?
Acho que no momento em que eu decidi dar as mãos para esse menino, acho que a primeira ideia foi então que tudo era ver a partir do olhar dele.
From the moment that I decided to grab hold of this little boy's hands, from that moment my strategy was to try to see everything through his eyes.
Então a ideia principal era assim, exercer sobretudo a liberdade dessa criança, ao desenhar, né? Tentar lembrar da minha liberdade quando eu era criança, quando eu era menino, em desenhar sem esse olhar do adulto, essa crítica do adulto.
So basically this was an exercise in freedom to try to remember what it was like to draw as a child without having that critical voice of an adult.
E algumas vezes desenhar como essa criança era praticamente como estar no outro planeta, né? Onde eu podia inventar tudo, inventar a flora, a fauna, os carros, a cidade, um novo mundo.
And sometimes being or seeing the world through the eyes of a child was like being on another planet. I could invent flora, fauna, I could invent cities, machines. It was like being in another world.
E estar perto dessa criança era sobretudo a possibilidade de exercer a crença de que tudo é possível.
And really what you end up feeling is, by looking through a child's eyes, is this notion that anything is possible.
E tentar traduzir esse sentido de esperança nas cores e nas formas, em todas as escolhas que eu fiz para esse filme.
And I tried to convey that hope through my choices of color, my designs, everything that was in the movie would try to convey that hope that children have.
Acho que o filme é a tradução desse amor.
And I think the film tries to translate that love.
I think you may have answered my question, but one thing that was on my mind, one thing I was wondering was, it's a beautiful and very specific aesthetic style. And I was curious to know, is that just the way you draw, or was that style created for the film?
It was created for the film.
Wow.
So I figure out how to develop this character, and from the character, I decided to try to draw the nature and the cars, everything, imagining how could be this boy looking to the world.
So you left your own brain and went into someone else's brain.
Yeah,
and made
for
a
me,
movie.
sometimes I felt like this boy is the director of the movie, not me.
Well, it's very special. I loved it. I'm curious about the story. There were times where it felt very specific, and at times it felt very universal. It was one character's story, and at times it felt like everyone's story. Is it based on any aspect of your life or anyone you know, or is it meant to be an everyman?
Ele achou muito interessante como às vezes era específico e às vezes é universal. Está baseado numa história de alguém que você conhece ou é universal?
Não, é uma história que eu acho que ao mesmo tempo ela é muito lírica, porque se trata, enfim, de um menino olhando o mundo, e ao mesmo tempo muito épica, porque trata da história do nosso continente, né, onde tudo, assim, esse filme surgiu da história do nosso continente latino-americano.
On the one hand, it's a very lyrical film because it starts from the eyes of a child, and on the other hand, it could at times it's a very epic film because the roots of the film were this other project which looked at the whole history of our continent, the Latin American continent.
E é uma história muito apaixonante e que me deixou muito apaixonado, né? Eu fiz esse filme com essa paixão, eu acho.
It's a film that really was done with a lot of passion, and I try to convey that.
So you're literally a one-man band. I mean, you're the writer, director, animator, everything. So could you kind of go into your process for everybody here? I mean, because we're used to working at a studio where there's a lot of people, labor is kind of divided up in certain categories. But you did kind of everything on this thing. So I'd love for you to talk to everybody about your process.
Yeah, I did all the animations by myself and directly on the computer using a digital pen.
I've never felt lazier in my life than right now. Never. Ever.
Thank you. But of course, I had a very special team, and Priscilla Kelly is here with me. She's the assistant director, and we had something like 20 guys helping us. Porque depois de fazer as animações digitalmente, a gente imprimia cada um dos desenhos e passava isso a limpo para ganhar as texturas.
After digitally animating a scene, we would print it out and then draw over it to give it texture.
So you drew everything twice.
Yeah.
How do you feel now, Don?
That's familiar.
I'm just going to leave.
Yeah, eu mesmo
the industry, not just here.
The same was true with the backgrounds also.
So you had an assistant director.
Yes.
Yeah. Would you like a producer?
Yeah.
He doesn't need one.
Completely necessary.
You're redundant. You don't.
I'm just interested in the intersection of the art, the artificial language that you created, and the music, because the music plays such a huge role in this. How did you kind of orchestrate the film that way?
Eu acho que a feitura da música foi um capítulo muito especial desse filme. Nós temos aqui também, infelizmente, os dois criadores da música, o Gustavo Kullert e o Ruben Pfeffer. Acho que
the music and the insertion of the music was fundamental. It was a very special part of the film, and fortunately we have the two who did the music for the film, Gustavo Kullert and
Stand,
Ruben
please.
Pfeffer.
Stand.
Fique em pé, faz favor. Fique em pé.
Please.
Absolutely beautiful.
Sometimes I think the music in this film is a special character.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's an important character. E a gente criou esse filme, a ideia desse filme foi sempre de que o filme, de que o som, né, de que a música e a trilha sonora em geral fosse parte de um corpo como uma escultura, né, que uma coisa amparando a outra.
And we also always had the idea throughout the making of the film that the sound, the music was really almost corporal, and that it had a body to it.
Uma vez que tem um menino, que a ligação desse menino com o pai são músicas, né, que o menino vê como imagens, né.
And the boys, he's searching for his father, and his affective tie to the father, a lot of times, is the music, which he sees through images.
Então a ideia era que às vezes a música se transformaria em som, né. Então a gente, por exemplo, essa parte da floresta, a gente tem ali os sons dos bichos. Como som mesmo, e isso vai se organizando até o ponto em que isso, sem a gente perceber, se transforma em música. Então, música se transforma em som vira música novamente.
And the idea with the music was that a lot of times it would start with sound. So we had a forest image, and there are animals and there are insects, and before we know it, it has become music. And vice versa, sometimes the music will revert into sounds of the forest and sounds of nature.
So were you animating to music? Was the music written before you started animating?
Não, foi ao mesmo tempo. Então foi uma construção que eu mandava para eles o filme, eles mandavam as músicas para mim, e a gente tinha meio que era um diálogo.
It was done at the same time. I would send them the images, they would send me the music, and vice versa. It was like having a dialogue.
É isso que eu quis dizer, como uma escultura, uma coisa ampara a outra, né? Muitas vezes eles mandavam coisas que estavam na música e eu então eu tirava na imagem.
And when I said it was like a sculpture, really it was, for example, sometimes they would send me a music and I would actually find the images and the image would grow out of that song.
There's a really striking scene, it's kind of a spoiler alert, but where you sort of integrate some very intense live action imagery into the film, and I'd love for you to tell the folks what was the thought process behind that.
A ideia do filme sempre foi a de que o filme nasce desse branco, que é um espaço metafísico.
So the idea with the film was it is born from a blank page, which is a metaphysical void, is where it starts.
Esse lugar de onde viemos, né, onde esse menino chega no mundo e para onde vamos, né?
Which is really sort of a metaphor where we came from, how this boy arrived at the world and where we're going for.
E à medida em que esse menino vai seguindo no jardim dele, a gente vai povoando com lápis de cor, com canetinha, com tintas.
And as the boy explores the garden, we start populating it with colors. We use pencils, we use pastels.
E na medida, essas coisas mais orgânicas, né? E na medida em que o menino vai se aproximando desse mundo construído pelos homens, o mundo, as cidades, a gente então decide inserir colagens de jornais e revistas.
And so basically that's an organic world that the boy is exploring in the garden. And as the boy gets closer and closer to the city, then we use clips, we use collages to basically represent the cities.
Mas naquele momento que a gente usou o live action, havia ali um momento limítrofe no filme que a gente queria uma carga, uma força, em que não foi suficiente essas colagens.
And where the live action came in was precisely where the images wouldn't do it justice. We needed this emotional charge, and the hand drawings weren't doing it.
Porque na medida em que, porque isso ainda significava que a gente estava, enquanto a gente estava colando e desenhando, a gente ainda estava sonhando e a gente precisava romper com essa ideia de sonho.
And if we had just been using collages and drawings, and we would still be dreaming. But at that point, it was sort of like an annihilation of the dreams.
Então a solução foi romper com a própria animação.
So the solution was to just destroy the animation.
So we decided to put fire in the backgrounds and reveal o que está atrás do.
What's behind? Yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you. We've run out of time, but we're going to call you back up again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So much for your art.
Great job.
All right, we're going to look at the next clip from Inside Out.
So, how was the first day of school?
It was fine, I guess. I don't know. Do you ever look at someone and wonder what is going on inside their head?
Did you guys pick up on that?
Sure did.
Something's wrong. We're gonna find out what's happening, but we'll need support. Signal the husband.
With a nice pass over the reed, comes across center ice.
Uh-oh, she's looking at us. What did she say?
What? Oh, sorry, sir. No one was listening.
Is it garbage night? We left the toilet seat up. What? What is it, woman? What?
Signal him again.
So, Riley, how was school?
You gotta be kidding me.
For this, we gave up that Brazilian helicopter pilot?
School was great, all right?
What was that? I thought you said we were gonna act casual.
Riley, is everything okay?
Sir, she just rolled her eyes at us.
All right, make a show of force. I don't want to have to put the foot down.
No, not the foot.
Riley, I do not like this new attitude.
Oh, I'll show you attitude, old man.
No, breathe.
What is your problem? Just leave me alone.
Sir, reporting high levels of sass.
Take it to DEFCON 2.
DEFCON 2.
I don't know where this disrespectful attitude came from.
You want a piece of this, Pops?
Yeah, well, look.
Prepare the foot.
Keys to safety position. Ready to launch on your command, sir.
Just shut up!
Fire!
That's it. Go to your room.
The foot is down. The foot is down. Woo!
Good job, gentlemen. That could have been a disaster.
Well, that was a disaster.
Come, fly with me, Cachinha.
Hey, come on up, Pete Docter and Jonas Rivera.
Get on up here.
How's it going? Hello. Hey, guys.
Hey.
What a great movie. I have an 8-year-old daughter, so I was a little traumatized by this movie and what lays ahead for me.
My daughter was 11, and Ronnie Del Carmen, my co-director, has older kids, and he kept saying, "It gets worse."
Yeah, my daughter was like 6, and I was, what do you mean? You know, I was living in the rear with this, like, oh no, and you know, this whole thing was about being parents, basically, you know.
So we're all working out our issues here.
We're all working out our issues.
Told you it was going to get real.
I'm very curious about the evolution of the story. These things take years. I'm curious about from the inception of the idea to the release, was the evolution of the story, was it a kind of a slow and steady process, or were there any seismic changes, unexpected changes along the way for you guys?
Well, weirdly, of all the films that I've worked on, this one seemed the most consistent from beginning to end, though there were tons of details that needed to be spelled out, and that kind of came in fits and starts. Discoveries, and then things that seem like that's going to work great, and then you throw it all away, and so on. You know what it's like.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah, we do. Yeah. I'm just curious. I mean, you guys have made a few features together. What is your favorite part of the process, both of you?
I came from animation, so I used to really love, I still do, but now having been through a couple, I don't know if I'm masochistic or what, I like the unknown, mysterious, hard, mysterious story development, you know, the stuff where you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
For me, it's animation. I mean, I just love animation. I'm not an animator. I always wanted to be an animator, and so as a producer and partnering with Pete and Ronnie and the team all the way through the development, when you first, and you guys know, when you first see Joy or the character move or breathe or blink, whatever, if it come to life for the first time, that is to me where it gets so real and good, and you see it come together one frame at a time. That's where I love the whole thing, but that's where I really fall in love with it, was when you start to animate it, you know.
And you guys are nominated for Best Screenplay as well.
Yeah, this is Ronnie Del Carmen. We're very proud of that.
Excellent.
Ronnie.
It's Meg Lefebvre, Josh Cooley, yourself, and Ronnie. Great. You want to talk a little bit about the screenwriting process in an animated film?
Yeah. I mean, for us, probably like you, there's an equal part of writing and sitting and figuring out dialogue and then drawing. And Ronnie is especially amazing at discovering a lot of these scenes through visuals. So instead of writing it all out, he draws it. And then we write the dialogue to fit what's needed. But, you know, some other scenes work the other way around. Of course, we'll sit, and Josh Cooley, who is hilariously funny, would sit and figure out sequences. Well, and we walked, like, at the beginning, we were also working with Simon Rich, who came to us via SNL, and he wrote scenes like the Forgetters, which followed the clip that we worked on. So, you know, just anywhere, any possible way we could get it figured out.
And can you guys talk about the challenge of visualizing a movie that could have been so abstract and conceptual? You had to make it tangible. Did you find it right away? Was it were there dead ends? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I come at this with a specific agenda, I got to admit. I feel like I love animation. In fact, just this morning I watched Gorilla My Dreams, the great Robert McKimson short, Bugs Bunny. So I love this stuff, and yet I'm also sort of like, come on, we could do so much more. Animation could talk about some real serious issues, which is what's so great about all the films that are here. They talk about stuff that's not just for kids, you know. It talks about things that are important to us as living, breathing adults, and yet, you know, we can partner both of those, I think, is what we feel so fortunate to work at a place that makes films that can work for both audiences, for kids and for adults. And so the challenge with this one, as you say, was to take something as abstract as it was, and even with adults sometimes you'd explain the pitch and they'd kind of tilt their head like the little nipper in the RCA commercials, you know. So there was a lot of concern, like, are kids going to be able to get this? And we knew kids are way smarter than we give them credit for. In the end we had to simplify the film a little for the executives, but the kids got it.
That's true. That's true.
So.
By the way, I love this is the only room in the world where you go, just this morning I watched Grill in My Dreams, and the room goes, oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh. They got you.
I love this.
So this is you guys' third film together. This is second with Jonas producing, right?
Yeah, it's the second one.
And this is going to be a really awkward question if you guys hate each other now. But what do you guys think makes you guys such a great duo?
I think we're cut from the same cloth of loving, growing up with the same movies and loving the early Disney movies, and we love Disneyland and Muppet Show, the weird things that make people work together well. And our crew, we're after sort of the same thing. I mean, Pete's movies, I think, are these beautiful observations of truthful things, but done in a really fun, whimsical way. That's what I love. That's why I love going to the movies. And for whatever reason, the recipe of Pixar has kind of brought us together. We've done a pretty good job about it. And our hope is they let us keep doing it until we blow it or something. We're blessed with these great teams that we get to work with. And I don't know, we sort of speak the same language that way, I think.
You guys work in a studio that's had a lot of success creatively and commercially, and what I get from Inside Out is a feeling of a lack of complacency. You guys, Pete, you seem to really be wanting to sort of push and try new things, unexpected kinds of movies. It feels like that's integral to you and the studio and the continued success.
Yeah, and I know you guys share that too. You don't want to feel like, we're doing the same thing, only this time it's gerbils instead of sloths or whatever. You want to feel like, hey, we're doing something new. We're innovating.
Wait, that was our next movie.
Sorry.
The gerbil and the sloth movie. It kind of writes itself.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Killed it right there, Pete.
I'll just go.
Did you have an imaginary friend, and what was his name?
I did. His name was Norman. And he was a tiny elephant who drove a magnetic car that could stick to the ceiling. So if I was bored, like tonight, I would be like, there he goes around the ceiling, there around the light.
But amazingly, you told that story in the story room or something in animation. I don't remember if we all had imaginary friends, and you said, "Well, yeah, it was nothing like Bing Bong. Mine was Norman and drove a car on this. Nothing.
He was like super
weird.
normal. Yeah, nothing weird.
Nothing to do with Bing Bong."
Was Bing Bong based on anyone's particular imaginary friend, or was that made up?
Like the greatest hits of imaginary friends. From we talked about kids or yours or what our kids would draw. I think right. I mean, he just kind of became.
I had Sparibs the dog.
There you go.
It was good. Sparibs was cool.
Pete loves candy. I mean, Pete, if you know or work with Pete, I mean, we spend a lot of time eating and buying candy and cookies. So of course, Bing Bong's sort of a tribute to that, I suppose.
Yeah, Pete. There's a great sequence, obviously, in this film that is very graphic, and that's sort of a new thing for CG. You want to talk a little bit about? I know you love kind of graphic kind of stuff. You want to talk about that sequence?
Yeah, the abstract thought sequence, that was something that as soon as we started making lists of environments and places we wanted to visit, abstract thought seemed like, oh my gosh, we've got to do that. And John was on board from like the first screening. Yeah. But it had a hard time buying into the film. In fact, sometimes even my wife might still kibble over, could you cut it right out of the film and still have a good movie?
Leave her alone.
But here's my rationale. At the beginning, before they go in, Joya's like, I'm following Bing Bong. He knows what he's talking about. Sadness, you can hit the road for all I care. Then they go through, and the very next scene, the subtext is, Sadness, are you sure we're going the right? Because I'm not sure whether Bing Bong really knows what he's talking. So it really is, we tried to engineer it as an arc in the character development.
It sounds like you're still defending that scene. Are
Yeah,
you convinced?
I am.
Or
We'll talk later.
Nominated for an Oscar.
No, she's not convinced.
Setting it up. Here's why it works.
What's it take?
It's good to have critics, it is.
True.
Close to home.
True.
I'm curious about the emotions that were in your head, both you guys, as you were making the film. And were there times when joy or sadness or fear or anger were at the controls at particular places in the development of the film?
Yeah, they all were, I suppose. I mean, I don't know. I guess we started off as a little nervous, because I think maybe it was fear at the beginning, because there was just so much work to do with this film to take it. I think everyone, including myself, fell in love with it right out of the chute as an idea. When Pete pitched the idea, it was a very simple way to tell a story. But then as we started untangling it, as producer, obviously, when one of your questions was, talking about the designs, there was so many open roads. There was nothing that was obvious. They sit in a chair in headquarters. Where's the chair? Where do they get a chair? Do they make a chair? They buy a chair? Is there a chair? So all these questions would unravel. It felt like it was a very fragile movie. So I guess I would say fear through the early days.
Yeah, in fact, Fear was he was one of the major characters, because we figured, I don't know about you, for me, fear was probably the primary emotion in my junior high school days. So we figured, all right, there's probably something there, and the film didn't work. And so it was, and this was year 3.5.
Yeah.
It was teetering on the edge of like, we don't have an ending to this. So it was really fear in myself, I guess, that drove us to make the switch to sadness and figure it out. So, it can be useful. Not pleasant.
So sad. I hear you. So sadness and joy were not originally the main duo.
Well, they were at the very beginnings, and then we got, I don't want to say distracted, but I made the decision to go to Fear and Joy paired together. And we did, 2-3 versions of the film that
and
way.
it made sense sort of academically.
In
But
reels.
yeah, to your point, the movie never landed. There was no real punchline to that.
Yeah, we weren't sure, what does Fear teach Joy that she could do at the end that she would have never been able to do at the beginning? And there was kind of no satisfying answer to that, whereas sadness could definitely, and it also felt like, okay, I hope we're all on Joy's side. We all want to have happiness in our lives, to have our kids' lives be joyful, but the reality of life is that it doesn't always work out that way, and there's a reason we have all these other emotions in us. They're not like freaks of evolution. There's a reason all these things exist, and they serve a purpose, and sadness is really to deal with loss, which is what we're talking about.
Well, the movie makes such a compelling argument that there's room and necessity for all those emotions. Again, we could keep talking, but we can't because
the red
time's
light
up.
is on. The
So
red light
thank
is
you
on.
very much, guys. We're
Thank
gonna
you.
bring
Thanks,
it back
guys.
later.
Thank you all.
Well done, guys. Thanks. Well done, Jones.
Thanks.
All right. Next up, we have Shaun the Sheep. Here goes.
Shaun the sheep and his flock know every trick to having a good time. But things can get out of control very quickly. Now, to get the family back together, they'll need a little willpower and a lot of teamwork. To stay out of trouble, they need to think fast. Look sharp.
Walk this way.
And always keep their cool. Because if they can't blend in, they could end up back in the pen. AARDMAN Animations, the creators of Wallace and Gromit and Chicken Run, present A Great Escape to the City. Shaun the Sheep, the movie.
Let's bring up Richard Starzak. And Mark Burton. You're Mark? I'm Mark. Yeah. Very good. Richard. Nice to meet you. Very good. I laughed during this movie so much. I was just laughing now. It's amazing.
You were.
I'm such an Aardman fan. I was in Bristol this summer and saw the multiple sheeps all around. They've got these enormous statues. How many did you make? Like 130 or something, right?
Well, I didn't personally make them, but yes,
Well, okay.
We had. It was for charity. We had artists design the sheep, and they were put all over the city, and then they were auctioned and raised a lot of money.
Really stunning. Really stunning. These characters are beloved throughout Europe. And I think the 81 episodes, half-hour episodes. What drove you to make a full-length feature with this?
I think very early on, when we devised the series, there was a kind of strong emotional core in one or two of the episodes, and I just thought we've kind of come up with what was originally like a work situation with a farmer as a boss and a sheepdog as a foreman, and the sheep workers that eat grass for a living. And that kind of evolved into a family after a while. And we just thought there were longer form stories we could tell.
Yeah, yeah. And it's fascinating to me that the characters, with no language whatsoever, I mean, the physicalization of these films is phenomenal. You guys must watch a lot of silent movies and Charlie Chaplin and whatnot.
Yeah, we did actually. Yeah, I think they were tax deductible because it was part of our business. So we did for a while. Every lunchtime we would watch one, to steal the jokes or to write them down. And we were influenced a lot by obviously the sort of great masters like Charlie Chaplin and Harold Lloyd, Buster Keaton. But there's also I don't know if you guys know over here, but Jacques Tati, who is a 50s Belgian director.
And he's here tonight.
Is he here?
He's sitting in the background.
Was that applause for Belgium? I don't know, maybe just. But I think what was different about his movies was he used sound not as or dialogue rather, not as a narrative, but he used it as a kind of device for comedy. And so we were quite influenced by that, and we loved the idea. The soundtrack was very important to us.
Yeah, Buster Keaton was a big influence on Sean because when I started working with Sean, there's nothing you could do with his face. He's like deadpan. So I had a little picture of Buster Keaton on the studio door just to remind the animators that you don't need. You can do a lot with the eyes, and you don't need to do a lot else. Yeah.
You want to, because you guys did like 81 episodes of sort of shorts, and then you want to just talk about the transition into making a feature? I mean, was it difficult?
140.
140. Our research was wrong. I'm sorry.
You really upset him.
I know. I'm really
don't leave
horrible. I miscounted by 60.
No, the two things because it was actually it wasn't even ever a half hour. It was 7-minute episodes, and Richard was the kind of brains of the series, and I came in for the movie to work with Richard on the movie. And I think there was two things that became apparent to us. One was that we would start the movie in the world that people knew, but we would take it into a new world. We explore and we take them into the city as a kind of new world. And I think the other thing we realised was there had to be an emotional story. And so, as Richard was saying, we kind of reimagined the sort of hierarchy as a family hierarchy, and it became a kind of in a way about an absent father, about a family learning not to take each other for granted. Right. And I guess the other big idea, big scary idea, was look, in the series, there's no dialogues. Let's just take that all the way through. Pixar did it brilliantly for half an hour in WALL-E and then pussied out.
Pete, you want to deliver that message up north?
Oh my God! Sorry, I don't know. But we were, it was a fairly terrifying thing. But we just thought we didn't want to. I think there was a Tom and Jerry movie in the '80s where they made them speak, and it just felt no, we don't want to go there. So.
Did anyone ever say that you remind me of Donald Trump? I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah, you should try working with him. Yeah.
No. Oh.
There it is.
Hi. when you work with Roy Conley, you get used to just sort of awkward segues. So, what I was curious about, there's a thematic idea about the importance of breaking out of your routine and throwing yourself into the unexpected. And I was curious, does that resonate with you as artists? And are you guys kind of creatures of habit, or are you more freewheeling in your lives?
I'll leave that one to you, I think. I didn't even understand the question. Come again?
They're so honest.
It's talking about, are we routinized people, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I think we are routinized. I think that we've had these discussions over the last few months, and met lots of other directors, and they were telling us about how difficult their films was, and Jorge Gutierrez was telling us about Book of Life, how it was like raining scorpions that were on fire, and then and I was thinking, well, yeah, we just had like cups of tea at 3:00, and then we went to edit for a bit, and then we went home. And
although it's interesting, isn't it? Because and you guys will know this, when you're actually in production, it has to be routinized, and so you do become institutionalized. And one thing that happens is, it's a bit like being a politician in terms of every minute of your day has been prearranged by someone else. And so you find yourself, where am I supposed to be? Where am I supposed to be now? And it's like, I think it's time for your toilet break. Oh, okay, right, that's good to know. And then it's like,
I don't know if you guys have that. Do you? Like,
absolutely. We definitely. There's always people waiting.
AD says, "Yeah, I think he's still in there." Yeah. Yep.
You can hear the walkie-talkies going. Yeah.
No dignity in this job at all whatsoever. None.
I think by the sounds of it, should be out any second now. Yeah. You hear all this stuff.
Unless that's a courtesy flush, I'm not sure, but. Sorry, this is getting very.
Nope. That's what they came for. That's what they came for. That's what they want. I forgot my question. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm back. One thing I was curious about, because there could have been a choice made for the farmer to be more of a pure antagonist character. I thought that's where it might be going at the beginning of the story. And ultimately ends up being a much more nuanced and sympathetic character. Was that something that was in the original conception, or did that evolve over time, that idea?
I think, yeah, actually, I think you're right. He did start out as an antagonist, and but we
in the series, perhaps. I don't think.
Yeah, but I think in the early stages of the film, Mark, if you remember rightly, that we actually he was getting in Sean's way, and he was at the start, and then we had the funny idea of making him a hairdresser, a sort of metrosexual hairdresser, and then we thought maybe we need another antagonist, and then we started again, I think.
Something like that, yeah. I mean, I think he was. I think the main thing was, you can watch it as, on the level as just being like about a farm and about farm animals, but you can watch it, as we described earlier, as a family story. And I think so. We thought if it's a story about being reunited with that guy, we actually, during the process of developing the story, cut a lot of farmer story out. I don't know why two middle-aged bald men should gravitate towards that character, but we kept finding we were building up his part the whole time, and we kept having to go right back and say, no, this is Sean's story, and it's the animals we want to see. But I think some of that nuance maybe stayed in there, hopefully.
So that's interesting. So the idea that he became a hairdresser in the big city, sort of a celebrity, did I hear you say that came late in the process? Because it felt sort of essential.
No, it didn't come late. But I think when we had that idea, then he seemed to be less of an antagonist now. He had his own story arc. So we kind of went back and rethought the thing.
I remember my question. So you kind of mentioned the routine of production, and I'm curious to know about you guys' process as far as story moving into production. So when you start production, are you guys is story locked, or are you still kind of figuring stuff out?
What do you think?
I think if you're like us, you're still figuring stuff out.
We're still figuring it out now, to
yeah.
be honest with you. What is true is the last, one of the last new storyboards was the week before the end of the production.
Really?
Yeah. So we I think we were, we called it permanent revolution. We were, always trying to adjust. It's like a jigsaw, particularly with stop frame animation, where you start dropping in the animation and you start to see what's really working, and you get a sense of of how things are working. And I think we sort of so we kind of we would adapt the stories as we went along, and there was always that hard edge of production where you get to a point where you can't, and we would always push that as far as we could.
Yeah, I think the story on the whole, the story we're trying to tell and the themes we had didn't change at all. I mean, from day one, but we kind of we changed. We were working on the plot right up to last minute. In fact, sort of a month before the end of shoot, we put an entire new scene in. Went gingerly into the model making department. Said, "Can we have a quarry? Cause just a reasonably big quarry. Nothing, something you can make in a couple of days."
We have time for one more question. I'm curious about the form of stop motion. I've talked to quite a few people at Leica Studios and people who work in stop motion, and they're very passionate about it, and they can't imagine working in any other form, even though it's so incredibly laborious. Is that the case for you? Do you have a particular love for stop motion?
Yeah, but not to the exclusion of anything else. But I was brought up on a diet of stop frame in the UK, and
well, literally.
Yeah.
That explains a lot, actually.
So I had a lot of roughage, and
a lot of plasticine fibre. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Sorry. Yeah, just and
you love stop frame.
That's. I always loved clay. As a kid, I always used to sit with a ball of clay and sculpt my parents to show my sister, try and make her laugh, and so it was in the blood really. And AARDMAN had a stop frame pipeline, so it just seemed natural that that's what they do.
So I got one more quick question. Crazy Eyes, the crazy-eyed dog in there. It's one of the funniest things that's never moved I've ever seen. Was that gag in the storyboards? Like, did the storyboard artist draw the Crazy Eyes like that? And
well, it was kind of our gag.
Yeah.
We kind of acted it out. We kind of had this idea because we sort of thought it'd be funny to have, like if you go to a sort of animal sanctuary, it'd be like San Quentin.
Sure.
And so he kind of acted it out with the eyes, but we had a great thing. I thought that actually the great bit of observation comedy, which was a mixture of us and the animator, was bits of the dog, his reaction to that kind of starey, nasty Scottish-looking pit bull, whatever it is.
It's Mark. We actually, I wish I had a frame of this storyboard here, because the storyboard artist based that dog on Mark, and I don't think it's ever
like a caricature? It's like a caricature of Mark?
It looks like Donald Trump, now I think about it.
There you go. Full circle.
Thank you.
Full circles, ladies and gentlemen.
Well done.
Nice to meet you.
Oh, that's great. All right, that's good. Our last clip is from when Marnie was here. Here goes.
In this world, there's an invisible magic circle. There's an inside and an outside. And I'm outside.
Never had that many friends growing up, so I learned.
Why is it that mansion feels familiar somehow?
It's really best for you to stay away from that old marsh house.
Just me, just me, just me.
Throw me the rope! Hurry!
And I'll be
In my dreams, I saw a girl just like you. I've been here for a long time. I wish that I was you. I can't go very far from the mansion. I need to get back. I don't care who Marnie really is. I just want to help her. Anna! Marnie! Promise me something that will remain a secret forever.
on the outside.
Let's bring up Hiromasa Yonebayashi, director. Yoshiaki Yoshimura, producer. Have a seat.
And Beth is coming to help us.
Hiromasa.
Hi.
Hi. So this film is adapted from a 1967 sort of YA novel by British author Joan G. Robertson. What about the source material inspired you to turn it into an animated feature?
はい、英語が喋れなくて、申し訳ないですけれども、最初にこの、原作があるんですけども、イギリスの児童文学なんですけれども、それを、スタジオジブリの鈴木プロデューサーから手渡されまして、読んでみたんですけども、すごく感動するお話ですし、2人のアンナとマーニーという2人の女の子の心の交流の物語で、それがもうすごくなんでしょう、精密なやり取りでの文章で書かれているんですけども、一方でこの2人の出来上がった空間をアニメーションにするというのは本当に難しいことだなというふうに思ったんですけれども、その2人で一緒にいるその触れ合いであるとか、風であるとか、2人がいるその湿地の空間であるとか、そういうものを描くのを想像すると、これはすごく美しい映画になるんじゃないかなというふうに思って、次第に、作りたいなというふうに思うようになりました。
When producer Suzuki of Studio Ghibli showed me the original British story, and I read it, and I thought it would be very difficult to animate. But when I realized that the story was one of Anna and Marnie becoming very close to each other, and the sort of exactness and details of that journey, I thought, even though it might be difficult, if I could depict how they felt when they touched each other, or the breeze, or the marshy area and the beauty of that area, if I could show those things, then I would be able to turn it into a film.
So, just out of curiosity, so did Suzuki-san own the rights to the book, or was he just a fan of the book, and then you guys got the rights when you became interested? It's kind of a boring question. I'm sorry, but I was curious.
アニメーションを作るっていう、それはすでに鈴木さんなどがその権利を取ってらっしゃるんですか？
本能ですか？権利は取ってなかったです。宮崎駿監督がとても好きな作品だったんですね。それで、鈴木さんは僕に作品を手渡したんだと思うんですけれども、宮崎監督が好きだけれども映像化できなかったというのは、その主人公の内面の世界なので、どういうふうに、描けばいいかというのは本当に難しかった。でそれを手渡すんだから僕もすごく困ったんですけれども、権利は幸いどこも取ってなく、原作の方が持っていたんですけども、それはなかなか映像化しにくい作品だなということはね、思いました。
So the rights were held by the original author and her estate, and nobody else had tried to animate or make this into a film. This is a story that Hayao Miyazaki had thought was a wonderful story, but he was not able to animate it. And I think one of the reasons is that you have to show the interiority of the heroine, and so that's very difficult to do.
I was really curious, actually, about the main character, because she's very complex. She doesn't feel good about herself at times and really lashes out at times. And I was curious about how you walk that line where you have an obviously flawed character that is also very empathetic at the same time, and how you walk that line.
その主人公は非常に複雑な要素を持っている人で、あまりいい面ばかり見せるということじゃないんですね。で非常にそういう欠点もあるようなキャラクターをどういうふうに見た人が共感できるようなことになるかという、私は共感するんですけれど、それをどういうふうにその狭い道を歩かれたんですか。
はい、スタジオジブリで作ってきたキャラクターというのは明るくて元気で、そういう人たちが活躍するという映画をたくさん作ってきたんですけども、実際の世の中では、アンナのように小さいけれども大きな悩みを抱えている人というのはたくさんいると思っていて、そういう人たちの横にちょっと寄り添ってちょっと背中を押してあげられるような、そういうようなお話が作れたらいいなというふうに思って作りました。
Most of the Studio Ghibli films feature a very energetic and bright and sunshiny type of characters. But I thought that it would be good to be able to be very supportive of a character who is small in stature but has very large issues that she's dealing with, and to be able to be softly supportive of her.
It worked really well. You pulled it off. You also mentioned the importance of capturing the tiny things, the little moments. And one thing I was really struck by is the incredible sense of the atmosphere and the sense of place. I really felt like I was there, and I was curious about your process, how you make a place feel so real and so tangible. Is it based on an actual place or an amalgamation of places, or is it made up? I was just curious about that.
先ほどいろいろなディテールとかその細密さが重要だとおっしゃったんですけど、非常にこの雰囲気そして場所が重要だったと思います。これを実際のところなんですか、それともいろいろ混ぜたんですか。
はい、原作にも書かれているように湿地を描くということで、その日本の、北海道、北の方にいる北海道というところに、実際にロケに行っていろいろな湿地を見て回って、それを実際には組み合わせて、舞台となる、湿地と湿地屋敷を作っています。今回の作品はその水をテーマに描こうかなというふうに思っていて、その水の水面の感じであるとか、雨であるとか、もうアンナの涙なんかもそうですけども、そういう水を使って、そのしっとりとした空間に、お客さんも一緒にアンナと一緒にこの空間を体験できるような、そういう映画になったらいいなというふうに思って作っていました。
So this marshy area that's so beautiful is a combination of several places that I actually went to look at to search out a location on the northern island of Hokkaido. And I was trying to have water as one of the themes in this film as well. Not only the marshland and the tide that goes in and out there, but also the rain, tears, and the sense of touching water that the characters had. And I wanted the audience to be able to experience that space and atmosphere along with the characters in the film.
アニメーションでその水を描くっていうのはすごく難しくて、その技術的に大変なことをやったんですけども、映画を見終わった後に宮崎駿監督から水の表現が良かったって言ってもらえたので、すごくやった甲斐はあったかなというふうに思っています。
For animators, depicting water is very, very difficult. And we had a lot of difficulty trying to get that right. When Mr. Miyazaki saw the film, he commented that the water was very well done. So I was very happy that he approved of my sense of the water.
I have a question for Yoshiaki. Last year, you were nominated for Princess Kaguya.
Yes.
Yeah. This year for When Marnie Was There. Do you sleep?
4 hours a day.
No, seriously.
Yeah.
Don't you feel lazy?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. What is, these obviously were going on simultaneously. So were you overseeing both simultaneously? What kind of staff do you have to kind of support you?
日本語で喋りますね。simultaneously 同時に進みました。かぐや姫の最後の段階っていうのは本当に大変だったんですけど、伊佐高畑っていうgenius, legend and well crazy guy なんだけど、その人が最後終盤もう公開日も完成の日も守らなくて、僕はもう精神的にすごく大変だったんだけど、その時にスタジオジブリの敏夫鈴木っていうプロデューサーが、僕を呼んで、その本を手渡して、こう言ったんですよ。スタジオジブリ、これは僕らも作品を作ることをちょっとやめるっていう長編をね。だけど米林弘正、そして西村義明っていうプロデューサー、この2人には未来があって、その未来のある2人が組んでどんなものを作るかって見てみたいんだと。だから1本やってくんないかってことで、睡眠時間を3時間4時間で何年間もやってました。
Toward the end of the Tale of the Princess Kaguya, and working with the genius, legend, crazy guy Isao Takahata as the director, it was really, really difficult to get to the finish point of that film, and it was a very tough time. It was around that time that producer Toshio Suzuki called me in and handed me the book When Marnie Was There, and told me that the first generation of filmmakers, Mr. Miyazaki and Mr. Takahata, will probably not be making any more films, but you and Yonebayashi have a future. So I want you to produce this film and have Hiromasa Yonebayashi direct it. So I shaved another hour from my sleep and slept only 3 or 4 hours for a few years during the overlap time.
Which leads me to the next question. Here we hear rumors of Studio Ghibli taking hiatus or actually shutting the doors. Can you let us in on what's happening?
Come on.
Gotcha! Wow!
実際僕らはもうスタジオジブリにいません。スタジオジブリは、去年の年末にクリエイターを全員、辞めてもらって、で制作部門を中止して、長編アニメーション映画は一旦休止するってことにしましたね。で、ただhayao宮崎さんはジブリ美術館の短編を作ってるし、僕らは新しい作品を作るために新しい場所を用意しようとしてます。
Actually, we are not working now at Studio Ghibli. Last year, at the end of last year, Studio Ghibli suspended its making of feature-length films. Hayao Miyazaki continues to make short films for the Ghibli Museum, but we are working in a different type of setup now.
Will you be changing the name?
名前を変えますか?
スタジオの名前は変わりますね。
No, it won't be changed.
That's it right now. We're going to stand up together.
Musical chairs.
And then they're going to bring in some chairs. There's going to be some amazing choreography right now.
Hey guys.
It's Charlie's daughter's birthday today, so Charlie had
Just a birthday party.
Oh,
well, happy,
right.
Charlie. Happy
Bye,
birthday.
Charlie. Yeah.
Charlie's daughter? How old?
16.
16? Oh.
Again, thank you guys all for coming. What an amazing collection of films. And every year, people say, wow, what an eclectic bunch of films. But this year takes the cake. And they're all amazing. So we have time for just a couple more questions. You guys can sort of throw it around. Big, broad question for you guys. Were there, over the course of the production, were there any moments of, were there moments that were extremely wonderful and amazing, or any moments that were really horrible, or were there any moments along the way where you thought, boy, this just really isn't going to work as you were developing your films?
Yes. Oh, do you want specifics?
Yeah, I mean, I was telling a story yesterday. We were together yesterday having a very nice meal. And I watched one screening, and as I watched it, I went through this process, which is I thought this is not going well at all, and I'm not really enjoying this. I think the story's not, it's broken. Actually, it's so bad that my career is over. And then I went, so my career's over, so what am I going to do? So I went through a number of professions to decide I was going to be a plumber. And I thought, actually, that's not so bad, because plumbers make a lot of money. And so when the lights came on after the screening, I was smiling. And everyone thought I'd love the screening, but it was because I was going to make a lot of money as a plumber. That was...
For me, there was just there's a really sad moment, and I can't remember which point in the production it was, when we realised that our film was going to be released very close to Inside Out. And then it took us about 3 days of sobbing. We picked ourselves up and just carried on manfully and womanfully.
Bom, eu lembrei de um momento triste, triste, mas é um momento em que a gente assistiu o filme pela primeira vez. Né? A gente contratou uma empresa para fazer uma pesquisa, para finalmente descobrir para quem era o filme, né?
What came to mind was a sad moment, not really a sad moment, but it was the first screening. We hired a company to help us try to discover really who this film was for.
E aí é incrível, porque você pode assistir o filme 1000 vezes enquanto você está montando, mas a primeira vez que você realmente sente o filme é quando você vê com uma plateia, né?
And it's incredible because you can see the film 1,000 times while you're editing, but you really see it for the first time when you're in the audience.
E quando o filme terminou, eu vi que tinham pessoas muito tristes nas salas, algumas crianças também muito tristes, e eu senti que o filme estava realmente terminando muito para baixo.
And once the lights came up, I saw there were a lot of very sad people in the room, and even children, and I thought the film was really sort of on a very down note.
E eu me lembro que a gente ficou uns 2 ou 3 dias sem dormir direito por conta disso.
And that we spent 2 or 3 days without being able to sleep.
Eu descobri que não era o filme que eu queria ter feito.
And I realized it wasn't exactly the film I had expected to make.
Aí então decidimos mudar uma única cena no filme. Era um momento em que o lixão estava engolindo a casa e nós trocamos por uma nova aldeia surgindo ali.
And what the solution was to change one scene, and the scene had been one where a city municipal dump swallows the city, and instead what we created was one where a little town just blossoms.
E foi como pôr uma luz no fim do túnel.
And it was like putting a light at the end of the tunnel.
É ali que eu senti que o filme estava finalmente pronto.
That's when I knew the film was ready.
That's amazing. I have to tell you, yesterday the saddest thing that happened in my house was my son, who's 4, threw a fit and wouldn't stop crying because we wouldn't let him watch Boy in the World for the second time that day. He was mad because he wanted it twice. So well done. Said you could watch Inside Out.
So I'd love to know, I think I know the answer to this question, but is the final film exactly what you imagined at the beginning, or did it evolve? And if it did, how? Duke, go for it.
Yeah, no, we didn't really know. We had this script that we thought was kind of perfect, which is, from what I'm hearing from a lot of the other stories, is kind of very different. Like the story was evolving as they were going, but we had the script that we didn't want to change at all. Like the words were there. But no concept of what this thing looks like or anything, and how could it be visualized? How could it be a movie? It just was a great story, and we love stop motion. How could we marry these things? And the whole process of making the film, the entire 3.5 years, was figuring that out slowly, step by step, what these things look like, how they move, what the world feels like, what the tone is, how to visualize this thing, how sound plays a part. It was like a discovery every day.
Awesome.
Ours was like the opposite. Well, I mean, it was a discovery every day, but we had no idea what it was going to be. And I would say, I guess in answer to your question, it's everything that I was hoping, but so much more because of the incredible people that we get to work with, from Ronnie, Ralph Eggleston, our production designer. Everybody brought so many ideas to it, and yeah, it's
kind of the wonder of animation.
Yeah, and in computer animation, obviously, because working at Pixar in our medium, as you guys know, you don't really see the final imagery until very late at the end. So every time you kind of get a shot all the way through the pipeline, it's like this great surprise, and it's so many people touch it and elevate it, and the people that do the hair or or just the cloth or the lighting and everything. That for me, it was always like this amazing gift. Every day you'd come and you'd see the work that you've seen from story all the way through the pipeline, and it was what would pull you through the 5 years of labor to do it, that you'd see these great imagery, but not till the end. And it's one of the joys, I guess also curses of the medium, because you can't see it until the end.
How about down?
そうですね。僕は最初に思ってたのと最後に思ってたイメージは変わらないです。全部思った感じで作っていますね。
For me, the image I had when I started making the film and the final film that was created, they were the same. It didn't change.
Boom.
Wow.
So awesome. Boom.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now we feel bad.
I'd be curious to know from anybody, is there a memory of, do you remember the first animated film that you loved, or the moment where you realized animation, you had to get into animation?
I think, I mean, I'd love to say some classy thing like Dumbo or something, but it was Rescuers. Which,
classy?
It was maybe not the strongest
kind of classy
work, but I think for me, again, there was something about seeing, I could tell that whenever that came out, that it was drawings, and I could even see at that point, there was something about that Madame Medusa lady that was like, whoa, that's really cool for some reason, I don't know exactly why, and she just moves better than everybody else, and so, that was kind of my discovery of animation, and that tease of knowing that it's fake, but believing that it's real.
That's 4-year-old Pete going, Mommy, who's milk call?
Yeah. There's a couple for me, which was, when I was young, there was only one cartoon on a week, and it was after the football on a Sunday. I used to wait for it. It was either Tex Avery or Chuck Jones, usually. Usually a Roadrunner cartoon, and me and my friends would, me and a friend, we kind of reenact the comic timing. We'd go, and we kind of do that for ages. And the other one was the Big Snit when I was a lot older, which was by Mr. Condi, who, and particularly the scene of hoovering the pubic hairs out of the bath, which just had the most amazing sound effects. And I was. That's when I realised I wanted to make it a career, I think.
I think for myself, my mom used to tell me that I would wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and grab my blanket and run out to the living room and just lay on the floor and watch Tom and Jerry every single day. And I love Tom and Jerry. I think that really made me want to work in animation.
Quando eu estudei animação, com 13 anos, eu tinha livros de storyboard do Le Maître et du Temps, Time Masters, do René Laloux.
When I started studying animation, I was 13, and I had the storybook of Time Masters by René Laloux.
É filme produzido com parceria com Moebius.
It's done in a partnership with Moebius.
E eu não lembro, foram incontáveis as vezes que eu fiquei vendo aquele livro e tentando imaginar que história que era aquela, porque o filme não passava nos cinemas e não chegava no Brasil.
And there were countless times I'd go over that book over and over again, trying to imagine what that film would look like, because the film hadn't been screened in Brazil.
Finalmente, 5 ou 6 anos depois, eu vi no jornal que o filme ia passar num pequeno cinema.
Finally, 5 or 6 years later, I saw an ad that the film was about to show.
Aí convidei um amigo meu, nós fomos nesse cinema, só tínhamos nós dois na sala.
I invited a friend, and we went to the theater, and we were the only two in the audience.
Esse é o filme da minha vida, junto com o Planeta Selvagem, do René Laloux também.
And that would be the film that changed my life, along with Fantastic Planet by René Laloux also.
Mas o filme que eu assisti era completamente diferente de todos os outros que eu imaginei.
But the film I actually saw was different from all the ones that I had imagined.
Então eu decidi que eu ia fazer animação para poder criar esses filmes todos.
And then I decided I would do animation to try to create all those other films I had imagined.
What about at the far end there?
Hiromasa.
僕はスタジオジブリの人間なんで、トトロとホタルの墓と言わないと宮崎さんと高橋さんに怒られますんで。
I'll have to say, as somebody from Studio Ghibli, that I loved My Neighbor Totoro and The Grave of the Fireflies, or I would be scolded by Messrs. Takahata Miyazaki.
それも冗談なんだけど、
Yeah, that's a joke.
スタジオジブリってやっぱ特殊で、トトロみたいに夢とか希望を描く作品と、ホタルみたいにその現実、大人が過去にこんなことしてしまったんだっていう現実の悪夢ってのを両方描いてるすごいスタジオなんですよ。で、僕はアニメーションの道に入るときにトトロとホタルっていうのは必ず言うのは、トトロは夢を描いてるし、ホタルは人間がこういうことをやってしまうって悪夢を描いてるんでね、この2つを描いてるスタジオっていうのは、世界にそれほど多くないと思うんです。ちゃんと理想と現実をちゃんと描くっていうのは。
Studio Ghibli, I think, is very unique in that it is a studio that can produce films like My Neighbor Totoro that are full of dreams and hope, and The Grave of the Fireflies, which is based in reality and history and is a nightmarish reality. So I think one of the great things about Studio Ghibli, and probably not many other studios can do this in the world, is that they are able to offer films from both ends of the perspective.
Duke?
I grew up loving all kinds of animation and the Rankin Bass specials and Looney Tunes and Muppet stuff and all that kind of stuff. But I actually pursued live action filmmaking first in high school, and then I went to NYU and I went to AFI, and all pursuing live action filmmaking. And I was also, when I was younger, I was a fine artist. I was a sculptor and a painter, and then I just got an opportunity out of grad school. The first opportunity I got was somebody offered me to direct an episode of their animated TV show, and I was just a aspiring director, and so I was, kind of willing to do anything. And it was in the second season of Moral Oral, actually, and he said the creator Dino Stamatopoulos said if it gets a third season, I can do an episode. So I ended up just hanging around the studio for about a year and a half, kind of like learning the craft, and discovered that it was kind of like this perfect marriage of fabrication and art and tactile art making with filmmaking. And you know, I got bit by the bug and I fell in love with it.
Mark?
Well, I guess I was very influenced growing up by comedy more than animation. But there was one thing that we have this in the UK. I don't know if you have it in the States. Kids comics, like funnies, you know, not like the sort of superhero mags. And there are cool things like the Beano and the Dandy. And they had these characters like Dennis the Menace, you know, and the Bash Street Kids. And I used to really, you know, I used to kind of gorge on those. I love those. And I actually did my own one. And it was called Wow and Screamer. And it had a circulation of about 5 people, I think. Which is probably more than the Times has now, to be fair. So, but the funny thing was, so I started off doing storyboarding, and I learned like how to do some basic expressions and how to draw a football, and that's all I can do now. I never developed, bizarrely, I never developed as an artist, and only got more interested in the writing side.
I thought you were going to say the first 20 minutes of Wall-E.
I love Wall-E. I love Wall-E, guys.
I can't wait to see the Beano and Dandy animated feature. Hiromasa, influence?
なんだったっけアニメーション本当にそうですね、僕はもう幼い頃からスタジオジブリの、作品をこう見てきましたけれども、そこの中でこう仕事をすることができて監督をできているというのは本当に信じられないことです。アニメーターとしてこう一番影響を受けたというか楽しかった仕事というのは崖の上のポニョなんですけれども、ああいうふうなアニメーションを、フルに活かせるようなアニメーションをまた作りたいなというふうに思いますね。
From when I was a youngster, I grew up watching Studio Ghibli films, so it really it was unbelievable for me to be able to work at Studio Ghibli and to become a director there. And so I would really like to continue to make animations that are, you know, active and lively.
Are there any in your films? Are there any in the films you've shown tonight? Are there any scenes or particular moments that stand out to you that you're particularly proud of? Animation is full of very humble people, so I'm going to force it out of you.
There's a scene in Inside Out that I'm really proud of. It's a scene that actually Ronnie I think boarded and crafted and wrote. I mean, you guys all did, but it's a scene in the movie where Joy, they've all gone to bed. Riley's gone to sleep, and all the characters have left, but Joy's there at the console, and she's kind of gaming the system a little bit, and she says, you know, I'll be right up, but what she does instead is to prevent Riley from feeling bad, she pulls out a memory that is her sort of like her favorite movie and puts it in, and it's Riley skating with her family, and she kind of, you get that she's seen it a million times because she sort of knows the moves and in fact skates in front of the screen. And I just remember seeing that scene come together, and even in drawing form, feeling like, man, that's the whole movie right there. And it's just, I'm very proud of it that through the rigor of production that I hope we sort of honored those original boards and how gentle and sweet Ronnie crafted that. And when I see that in the movie now, I'm really proud of it because it's pretty much a silent scene, but it has a lot of storytelling in it, and it's the only time you see Riley and Joy, by the way, on the screen together, and that's just sort of a nice echo of the whole thing. So I'm proud of that scene.
No, you just handed me the mic. I'm not going to say anything. I think actually it's probably the scene you watched for the emotional content there, because we couldn't change the size of our puppets. So Shaun the Sheep is literally 6 inches high, and there are scenes when his eyes fill the screen, and he was in a prison cell, and he starts to empathise with the dog across the way, and he tries to attract the attention. There are tiny little eye movements there that are minuscule, absolutely minuscule, that make it really feel like Shaun's thinking and feeling that moment. And when I first saw it on the big screen, I realised how subtle it was, because you watch it back on the monitor, you approve it, you think that's great. and then you see it on the big screen, you just go, wow. So that was my favourite.
I'm most proud of that too.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
I just thinking you said the whole movie was in that one scene. You should have made a short and given the rest of us a chance. And then
anyone else?
My favorite scene of the movie is when Lisa is singing "Girls Just Want to Have Fun." In the original sound play, it's "My Heart Will Go On," and we could not get that song cleared. So these guys were in the booth with all the actors. We're going through the lists of all the songs, and it was Evergreen, it was The Rose, it was, I think, True Colors for a minute. And then somebody said, "Girls Just Want to Have Fun." And Jennifer sang this song, and tears were just streaming down her faces. It was so beautiful, it was so magical. And Charlie and Duke were in the booth, and I'm behind, and they turn and they look at me, and they're like, and I'm like, and then quickly start typing, trying to clear the song.
Yeah.
And it took me 2 years to clear the song. And
Which we didn't know. We thought the entire duration of making the film that we had the rights to that song. And she didn't tell us.
Was there a plan B?
We found out on a Q&A.
a month ago, I finally spilled the beans. But you know, I became best friends with that coordinator. I said, "I will sleep on your doorstep. I will come to your wedding. I will coordinate whatever you need. I need this song."
We had a similar thing, actually, because we had a song that we fell in love with in Shaun the Sheep, which is "Home" by the Foo Fighters. And then we went, and it was on there, and we got used to it, and we built the whole sequence around that song. And then somebody in the suit said, "No, you can't have that song." We're like, "What do you mean we can't have that? We got to have that song, you know." And they said, "Well, you know, the Foo Fighters never agreed to anything, and they don't have any music in films." And then our music coordinator said, "Well, I can probably get something to Dave Grohl." So I sort of wrote him this heartfelt letter, and then Richard did a kind of drawing of Shaun pleading. And I have to say, to his credit, you know, he read it and he said, "Yeah, you can use it in the film." So it was really delighted. So good for the Foo Fighters.
Foos.
Anybody else? Favorite scenes? Duke, you about ready to say something?
Yeah, I could say, for me, it's the sex scene. And the reason is, see, you say sex scene and everybody laughs because it's an animated movie. And, you know, it was like an organic part of this character's love story. Everything happens in real time from the time these two characters enter this hotel room until it builds to this moment. And we knew going into it that, you know, it's dolls having sex, and that's going to be funny, and people are going to laugh at that, or it's going to be exploitative in some way, and how do we avoid that and just kind of not betray the characters and just make it kind of this authentic, nuanced kind of thing that people could relate to. And we tried really, really hard, and that scene took the longest. It took 6 months to animate, and we didn't know actually until we screened the film, even if it worked. And just the experience of first seeing it with an audience, and as the film starts, or as that moment starts, and there's a little bit of chuckles as people kind of can't really believe what they're seeing, and then there's kind of a hush, and they're just kind of quiet, and they take this moment in, and that was really emotional for me, being in the audience, experiencing that, and kind of feeling like, I think we pulled it off.
There's so much truth in that scene. There's so much physical truth and emotional truth, and I was really blown away by it. And I can't imagine maybe a scene in film history that I want to watch less with my mom.
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking as I was watching it.
That's what we were going for.
You achieved it.
gosto muito do momento em que o menino chega, ele encontra o trem finalmente que estava levando o pai dele, e quando chega na estação, ansioso por encontrar o pai, o que ele vê são mil pais saindo do trem.
I'm really proud of the scene where the boy finds the train that took his father away, and it's the same train, and he's waiting there on the platform, and he sees what looks like his father, and then there are actually thousands of men who look exactly like his father.
はい、誇りに思っていることですよね。ですね、この映画はそのアンナの心を描かなきゃいけないということもあって、映画が始まってからのアンナと最後のアンナと気がつかないうちに気がついたら全然違う心が健やかなアンナに変わっていたというふうになる、その緩やかなオーバーラップで変わっていくっていう様をアニメーションと美術で描いています。この描き方をするには本当にすごく大変な精密なアニメーションと、美術を描かなければいけなかったんですけども、今回の作品で多数の人が、スタジオジブリを去ることになるんですけれども、本当にみんな死に物狂いで、絵を描いてくれた、ことがすごく誇りに思いますね。
For this film, I had to depict Anna's mental state, but in such a gentle way so that you don't really realize how she is changing from the beginning of the film to the end. But then when the film ends, then you realize that she has become changed and a much more positive person. And of course, I had to use animation as well as background art to show that change. And it had to be done in a very careful, nuanced way. So I was very grateful that the people who have now left Studio Ghibli had worked so hard in really tough conditions to get that effect across.
Yeah, it was so subtle and so delicate. It was amazing.
Just one more detail is we had a scene in the restaurant. There's a restaurant scene where you see out the window and you're in a city, and we'd run out of puppets and cars to go past the window, and the production manager said, we'll just have to shoot this another time. I just wanted some life outside the window, so the animator was stood there. He had a motorbike. I picked up his crash helmet and pushed it past the window, and it looked like a Toyota. From the camera's point of view, so look out for crash helmets going past windows in Shaun the Sheep.
That's great. We've come to the end of time here, but I just want to say Jonas said something today about silence, and silence in animation is such an amazing, powerful thing. And each one of these films, when I think about it, there are so many beautiful silent moments and so much poetry. And I thank you. We are honored to be here with you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody.